Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Linda. Here on this channel, I share videos about sewing, pattern drafting, and everything fashion. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to cut different type of necklines for your blouses and for your dresses. If this seems like what you're interested in, you might want to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell. Let's begin. So guys, as you can see on the work table, I already have my pattern paper laid out. So I have a lot of pattern paper here, I think about 12 pieces of them, and as you can see, I've gone ahead to cut out my half block of my basic bodice pattern. Okay, now as you can see, for each basic bodice I have the red line there which indicates the chest line or bust point. So the first on our list is the sweetheart neckline. To draft this, the first thing you're going to do is to measure the depth and the width of your neckline. So as you can see, this is my chest line, which is 10 inches. So I'm going to be measuring 3.5 inches here, first of all, for the width of the neckline. So go ahead and place it this way and mark what you get on your paper. And then for the depth, I choose to go down by 7 inches. So go ahead and mark 7 inches, just as you see me marking. And then the next thing you're going to do is to come upwards from that point by 3 inches. So go upwards just like you see me doing and mark 3 inches. So after that, you need to measure another width, just like this, making sure it's corresponding with the first one you measured at the top. So go ahead and mark what you got there. If you have 3.5, mark 3.5, and then connect with a straight ruler. Next, I'm going to be drawing a curve like this to meet this point from here with my curved ruler. But first, I'm going to mark 5 inches to extend the width of this neckline, just like you see me marking. Okay, so I'm just going to use my curved ruler to connect the curves and bring out the shape of the sweetheart neckline. So go ahead and place it this way, and then connect from this point upwards to the 3.5 inches mark, and then you need to square it upwards like this. That is if you're actually drafting for a narrow neckline. But if you want it wider, go ahead and extend it to the 5 inches mark, just like you see me doing. So guys, after marking, go ahead and smoothen these edges at the curves so that it looks really perfect. So the next thing I'm going to do now is just go ahead and cut it out. So first of all, I'm cutting the narrow neckline, and I'm going to show you guys how it looks like before cutting the second one. So if you want it to look this way, you can just go ahead and leave it like this if it pleases you. Okay, so but if you want it to become wider, to go more deeper, go ahead and just cut it out the way you see me doing. So this is how the sweetheart neckline looks like. You can go ahead and cut it out on your part and cut out the pattern on your fabric. Now I'm going to label this as the number 1, which is the sweetheart neckline, and then I'll go ahead and cut out the second one. So for our second one, we have the monostrap neckline. The first thing you're going to do now is to measure 3.5 inches, just like I did for the first pattern. So go ahead and mark it this way. And then you're going to open it up like this with the right side facing up so that you can actually draft your pattern. So go ahead and place your tape rule like this from this part and measure 5 inches downwards, then mark it. Depending on your preference, you may choose to mark 6 inches or make it even deeper. So I chose to mark 5 inches. Now I'm going to connect it with a straight ruler first, because this kind of neckline can either be straight like this or a little bit curved. So I'm using a dotted line to identify the straight line. So I'm also going to use my hip curve to create a curved line just like this, and then I'll cut it out. So guys, this is what it looks like. This is how our monostrap neckline looks like. Okay, you can see how slanted it is. We have 3 inches here and 5 inches here. So this is the one I removed from the neckline. Next, we're going to be cutting out our Queen Anne neckline. To draft out the Queen Anne neckline, the first thing you need to do is to measure the width of the neckline. Okay, so go ahead and measure 3.5 inches or 3 inches. Let's say 3 inches because it's a bit narrower than the sweetheart neckline. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to measure 7 inches for the depth. And the next thing I'm going to do after that is to come upwards by 3 inches, just like I've been doing. I'm going to mark 3 inches there at the middle, and then I'm going to extend it this time around outwards by 4.5 inches or 4.5 inches. Now I'm going to use my ruler to create a dotted lines to bring out the lines. Okay, now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to use my curved ruler to connect this to this point. Okay, so go ahead and use the curved part of your French curve to achieve this. After drawing out the curved line, the next thing you're going to do is to use a straight ruler to draw this part of the line. Okay, that way we have brought out the shape of the queen and neckline. So I'm going to cut this out for you guys to see how it actually looks like. When I open it up, this is how it's going to look like. Okay, this is how the pattern for the queen and neckline looks like. Next, we're going to be cutting out the round neckline. Okay, this is the regular round neckline. So the first thing I did was to place my tape rule 3 inches by 3 inches wide on the width and on the depth of the neckline, and then I went ahead to square it up into a square shape like this, making sure that what I have here is also 3 inches. Then I went ahead to square the line upwards. So I have a square shape here. I'm going to come in with at this angle by 1 inch. Okay, just go ahead and mark 1 inch like this. In case you don't have your French curve, you can make use of your free hand. So this particular French curve will help to bring out the roundness of the neckline, okay, using that 1 inch I gave at the middle. So this is how it looks like. I'm going to cut it out and then proceed to the other one. Still using this pattern paper, I'm going to be drafting out the U-shaped neckline. Now I'm going to fold back my paper just like this, and then I'm going to measure from the neckline like this. For the width, I'll go ahead and mark 4 inches. Okay, initially we marked 3 inches. Now I'm going to mark 4 inches for the U-shaped neckline, and from this part I'll be going down by 1.5 inches. So I'll go ahead now and draw a straight line like this to meet at the other line, which is corresponding with the depth of the neckline. So after connecting the lines, the next thing I'm going to do is to bring my tape rule and come at this angle of the lines where the both line meets. I'm going to be marking 1/2 inch there, and then I'm going to use my curve ruler to create a curve to link the both lines together. After I was done marking, the next thing I did was to cut out the neckline, and then I'm going to open it up for you guys to see how it looks like. So this is how the U-shaped neckline look like. Next on our list is the scoop neckline. To draft your scoop neckline, the first thing you need to do is to measure the width of the neckline, just like you see me doing. Go ahead and mark 5 inches for the width like this, and then mark the point, and then you want to measure the depth like this. But you have to determine the depth you need for the dress. Okay, so now what you need to do is just place your tape rule this way and mark 7 inches. Is either you mark 7 inches or reduce it to 6 inches. This depends on the amount of boobs you want to be exposing, but in my own case I'll be marking 7 inches, and that means at this angle I'll be marking 2.75 inches. Now this can vary from person to person, so I'll go ahead now and draw a straight line to connect or square up the lines. After that, the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and mark 1.5 inches on this part of the angle. So go ahead and measure 1.5 inches like this, and then connect it with your curved ruler just like you did for the others. Or better still, use your free hand. But the curved ruler is very professional to use because it gives accurate curves. So after marking the lines, next thing I'm going to do is to cut this out. Now this is how it looks like. Okay, you can see that we have our scoop neckline, we have the U-shaped neckline followed by the round neckline. So I just managed to use this pattern paper to draft out the 3 of them. I'm going to mark this as the round neckline, then the second one should be the U-shaped neckline, then the last one is the scoop neckline, and that is it. Next on our list is the halter neckline. So the first thing you're going to do to draft out the halter neckline is to mark 3 inches for the width first of all. After marking your 3 inches for the width, then go ahead and mark 3 inches for the depth as well. So I will just go ahead and connect it with my curve ruler in form of a round neckline, and the next thing to do is to mark 1 inch like this by extending the neckline, okay? And then I'll come down at this place like this, and then I'll measure 6 inches and mark a point there. Next, I'm going to use a ruler to connect it diagonally like this, just to intersect with the armhole. So this is how the halter neckline looks like. Next thing I'm going to do right now is to cut it out, and then I'm going to label it as the halter neckline. After cutting it out, I'll go ahead and open it up for you guys to see. This is how it looks like when the pattern is open. And then the next thing I'll do to spice this up is to add the keyhole neckline, which is the next on our list. So to draft out the keyhole neckline, I'll go ahead and mark 2 inches like this. Now this can be different for each person. You can either want it bigger or smaller. So just mark 2 inches and extend it the width by half of an inch, and then connect it like this in form of a teardrop. And after you're done, you have your little keyhole neckline there. I'll go ahead and label it as a keyhole neckline and also cut it out. Note that you can also have multiple keyhole on your neckline. Just give about 1 each space for each of them depending on the size you want. And after cutting this out, I'll just go ahead and open it up for you guys to see how it looks like exactly. So this is how it looks like. We have our halter neckline and our keyhole neckline in the pattern right now. The next thing to do now is to mark the square neckline. So for our square neckline, I'll go ahead and measure 4 inches or 4.5 inches as the case may be, and then for the depth I'll go down and mark another 4.5 inches. Now after marking it, I'll go ahead and also extend the line like this by 4.5 and square up the lines to meet at that point before cutting it out. So this is what I have after cutting out the square neckline. Okay, this is how beautiful it's looking like. Next I'm going to do now is to cut out the next pattern on our list, which is the V-shaped neckline. So to draft out your V-shaped neckline, go ahead and mark 3.5 inches like this and mark a point there. Measure 3.5 inches like this. So if the width is wider, then your length should not be deep, but if the width is smaller, please go ahead and make the length deeper. So in my own case, I'm marking 7 inches for the depth of the length, okay, and then the width is 3.5 inches. Right now I'll go ahead and connect a line like this to give out the V shape, and then after that you need to determine how you want to leave it. In my own case, I want to spice it up a little bit by making it a bit curved on the middle. So I used my curve ruler to achieve that. I made a dotted line to indicate that already. So now I'm going to cut out the neckline. First of all, I'll be cutting the straight V neckline, and after that I'll show you guys how it looks like before cutting the curved one. So this is the straight V neckline. This is how it looks like, very angled. And then I'll go ahead right now and cut out the curved one so you see the differences. It appears to look a little bit curved. I'll go ahead right now and label it as the V-shaped neckline. And as for the previous square neckline, I'll also go ahead and label it as a square neckline. Next on our list is the asymmetric neckline. The first thing I'm going to do to draft this is to measure the width. Okay, I'm using 3.5 inches. To mark that, I'm going to open up the pattern wide like this and then mark the midpoint first of all before marking your width of your neckline. On one side, I'm going to be marking 5 inches for the width, and on the other side, I already have 3.5 inches. Next, you place your tape rule this way and measure 5 to 6 inches downwards. Then go ahead and connect it with a straight ruler, just like you see me doing. And after doing that, go ahead and connect the other side
like this. I have done that, but it was off camera, so I'm just going to take away this portion of the pattern, and what I have left is our asymmetric neckline. So I'm very sorry to do this off camera. My camera wasn't even capturing as well. So what I'll do now is to explain. I had 5 inches from this part. I have 5 inches here. Okay, I'm just going to label it. Then I have 3 inches here. You can even make it 3.5 inches. And the other side that is connecting downwards is 6 inches. Sorry, 5.5 inches. So that is that for our asymmetric neckline. You can go ahead and also make it a little bit curved, just like you see in the picture. Next on our list is to cut out the basic shirt neckline. For this, I have 2 patterns already on my work table, and as you can see, the back pattern is 2 inches longer than the front pattern. The front pattern is the one above and the back pattern is the one underneath. So I'm going to label it as the back and the front. The difference between the front and the back is that the front has a lapel for the button. Okay, the front is 2 inches wider while the back is 2 inches longer. So you can see I don't have any chest line or armhole curve. That is because I'm going to be doing that later after we have drafted out the neckline. The next thing I did was to assemble the patterns to be equal at the top like this. I had to pin it down, and then after that I went ahead to measure the shoulder line. Okay, so for the shoulder line I have measured half, which is 8 inches, and from there I'm going down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and I'm also going to connect it like this in a slant line, and then from there I will go ahead and cut out the slanted line. So when cutting your shirt, go ahead and fold this part for the button. Okay, so this part is for the button. Make sure to fold that in and also pin it down so that it stays folded for you to draft your neckline. So I'll go ahead now and come down by 2 inches, which was the initial measurement for the shirt, as you can see. And I'll make sure that everything stays flat and pinned down. Next, I'll go ahead and measure my chest line or my bust point line. So I usually mark 10 inches in all this pattern. After marking the line, I went ahead to label it, and as you can see I started from the front pattern, not the back. So now I'm going to fold this the back towards the front piece like this, making sure that it's overlapping on the front by half of an inch. As you can see, make sure you have half of an inch here, okay, slightly covering that of the front, and then also go ahead and pin it down with your pins to secure it in place. And after that, what you need to do now is to start drafting your shoulder line. So place your shoulder measurement starting from the folded edges, okay, like this, just like you see me doing, and mark half of your shoulder measurement. Just mark 8 inches if your shoulder is 16, and that means you have divided it into 2. Now I'm going to connect the line like this. I'm not going to go down by 1 inch slope anymore because I already slanted my shoulder. As you can see, I measured the depth of my armhole using the tape rule, and what I have there is 8 inches. So I'm going to connect the line and square it upwards, and also connect the remaining line like this. There you have it. We have our armhole and we have our chest line. So now we can begin to draft the neckline for our top. At the width of the neckline, go ahead and mark 2.5 inches. Given the neckline, which is 14 inches, I'm going to be dividing that by 6, okay? So 14 divided by 6 is going to give us 2.3 inches, okay? Now I'm going to reduce it to 2.3 inches on the width and 2.3 inches on the depth. 2.3 inches on the depth, just like this. So I'll go ahead and mark a point there, and the next thing I'm going to do is to square up the line using a straight ruler. I'm going to connect it into a block shape first of all before curving it out. So just take your time and observe what I am doing so you can get it right. Now that I am done, the next thing to do is to create a curve. Carefully create a curve like this, okay, making sure that it's rounded on the edges. So make a curve that is equal, just like this. You can see that it started from the back and then I brought it into the front like this, okay. So after doing that, go ahead and make sure that everything is summing up to the neckline that you measured. So just carefully go ahead and mark your measurement like this.
create a curve, then cut it out. You can see the way I inserted my scissors. I made sure to insert it from the back like this. So I'm cutting through the back. I'm not cutting the whole back, just the top folded portion. And after doing that, go ahead and carefully bring it into the front. Okay, so I'll insert the tip of the scissors into the front like this and cut from the line which I had curved initially. So go ahead and do the same thing you see me doing here, and after you're done, what you have left is a rounded neckline for your shirt. So this is what it looks like after I was done cutting. This is how it looks like when I open this up. When I open the folds up, you can see that the back is okay, and the front is also curved. So I'm just going to use this ruler to just draw out the same line that was erased for the button lapel. So I'll go ahead now and also cut out this portion that is curved to allow it to be straight, and then I'm going to slit this part of the front to have two pieces. Okay, so after doing that, I'll go ahead and notch this portion, which indicates the button allowance. So now I'm going to place it back on fold like this, the way it was initially, then cut out the armhole. So after cutting out the armhole, we have our shirt pattern coming together. So I'm also going to trim out a portion from the front armhole because the front and the back armhole are quite different from each other. So after marking the line, I went ahead to trim out the excesses. So now I'm going to open the back piece. This is how it looks like, and also I'll go ahead and place the front piece on the back piece. Then I'll kind of fold the back piece into the front just the way it is when I was drafting it out. That is why I left about 2 inches for the back when I was drafting it out. So it's going to look somehow like this, a kind of coming down into the front. So this is the button allowance. As you can see, I'm placing them underneath each other just the way it should be when fixing your button. So I'll go ahead now and fold the second side of the shoulder, and it should look like this after stitching your patterns together. Now you can see that our neckline is very round and accurate, and also our button allowance is also accurate. So I'll bring out the lines to make it very visible for you guys to see. So this is our round neckline. This, when you measure this, is going to give you the 14 inches neckline measurement we used. Next on our list is the built up or the turtle neckline. So to draft this, you can see that this is the shoulder line and this is the chest line for the pattern. And above the pattern, I left about 2 inches before marking my shoulder line.
So what you want to do next is to measure the width and the depth of the neckline. So I'm marking 3 inch by 3 inch. So I have 3 inch for the width and 3 inch for the depth. After marking the dots, I'll go ahead and connect it with my curved ruler, just like you see me doing. Now we have our rounded neckline, which is the regular one. Please go ahead and make yours accurate. I figured that mine wasn't that round. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to take the placement of our shoulder, which is 8 inches, and I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. After doing that, I'll go ahead and do the necessary thing by connecting it into the shoulder line by marking a slanted line into the shoulder line. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do right now is to work on the tip of the shoulder, which is the area, which is the point between the neckline and the shoulder. Okay, so go ahead and mark 1 inch upwards like this, or 1.5 as you may want it, as high as you may want it, and then I'll go ahead now and also extend that point into the neckline just like you see me marking. Okay, I drew a straight short line to extend that. And next, I'm going to mark another measurement. Just go ahead and place your tape rule like this. Like you want to add another width of the neckline, mark 0.75 inches, not up to 1 inch. So after doing that, go ahead and add extra 1 inch at the top like this to reduce the depth. Now you may want to just connect this point to this point like this using a part of your curved ruler. Please don't make it straight, make it a little bit curved, and then make sure to connect the point into the shoulder slope. Now after doing that, go ahead and connect the second point to the neckline, to the tip where you extended the 1-inch mark, just like you see me doing.
So this is going to be our new neckline. I'll go ahead and eliminate the other one by cancelling it. Okay, so we have taken up the neckline upwards by 1 inch, and now we're going to be adding half of an inch all the way around the lines.
Now go ahead and smoothen the sharp edge you have at the shoulder slope, and then add your extra ½ inch all around. So the ½ inch I'm marking is the sewing allowance you usually add to your pattern before stitching. Now I'll go ahead and cut it like this, and of course this is your armhole, so this is it for our built-up neckline. I'll go ahead and label it as the built-up neckline / turtle neckline, and then cut out everything. So this is what we had after cutting out our built-up neckline. This is how it looks like. Okay, you can see that the neckline is not that curved, but please go ahead and make sure you curve yours accurately. So guys, that is basically it for this tutorial. Thank you guys for watching up to this extent. Now I'm going to assemble all the patterns and label the ones I didn't label. This is the sweetheart neckline, okay, and also the second one here will have the monostrap neckline. I'm going to label that as a monostrap neckline just for indication. And then we have our round neckline, our U-shaped neckline, and our scoop neckline, followed by the Queen Anne neckline. As you can see, I didn't label that. I went ahead to label it as well. And with that being said, we have come to the end of this tutorial. If you like this video, kindly hit the subscribe button. Also tap on the notification bell for more videos like this. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.